So I did have more information on Nina Turner's election, what happened there, and the struggles that she is going to face, or that she has been facing, coming from the Democratic Party. So she had an interview recently with Ryan Grimm on the Hill, and I want you to hear what she said. And there's a lot that goes into this, because there's other things that other videos I'm going to show you too, that's going to give you more of an explanation about those threats that the squad faced. And I want to get your opinion on that as well. But let's go ahead and get into this video. And I want you to hear what she says about the Democratic Party.
Well, Shontel Brown defeated Nina Turner twice this year, officially on Tuesday for the second time. We're very lucky to be joined now by Nina Turner, who is here to offer some reactions on what happened in the race. There was an influx of pro-Israel money that came into the race, and I know we're going to get into all of that. There were similar patterns in both of those races that played out over the course of this last year. So, Nina, first of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Emily.
Yeah, it's always great to talk to you. And I'm just going to start off by asking for some reflections on the second of two campaigns that you ran this year.
Yeah, back to back because of the special election. I will say it was not so much that she defeated me as much as big money defeated me in both times. If there had been a strictly head-to-head, woman-to-woman race, there is no doubt that I would be Congresswoman Nina Turner at this moment. But unfortunately, dark money groups flooded into this race as they did last year. Super PACs flooded in here. We know that a crypto billionaire jumped into this race, placing $1 million. And people have to ask themselves, it wasn't anything so spectacular about her run. So why is it that cryptocurrency billionaire and oil baroness and others, I mean, Emily, they were making up super PACs. At a certain point, there were so many super PACs in this race against me. It was very, we couldn't keep up with the number of super PACs.
And this is something that is always going to be an issue. See, basically what the Democratic Party has done, when the first round of the squad won, when you had AOC, Ayanna Pressley, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, when they got through, that wasn't supposed to happen according to the Democratic Party, the establishments in the Democratic Party. They did not expect them to win. Crowley did not expect AOC to beat him. That's why he didn't show up until he started to realize that the poll numbers were closer than he would have thought they would have been. Then all of a sudden he wanted to show up and try to speak, but it was too late, right? So what I believe has happened is I believe that after those races, and especially going into 2020 and Cori Bush beating Lacey, that definitely was not supposed to happen, according to them. So what I believe has happened is that they have adjusted their strategy to try to prevent any other progressives from getting into Congress. That does not surprise me. I predicted that would happen once they figured out, wait a minute, these progressives actually had a chance of getting in. Let's see what we can do to stop that. That's where the money comes in. So this is something that is always going to be an issue, is the money. And I don't know what happened to this, but at one point, I remember we were focusing on Citizens United, ending that. At one point, we were focusing on getting money out of politics. I don't really hear much about that anymore. And this is one of the reasons why I don't agree with the strategy anymore. The money is always going to be an issue. Look at all the money that came in for Shontel Brown that they poured in. How are you going to beat that, right? Like, how are you going to overcome that? How are you going to stop that? Because now they know that progressives are getting in, so they're putting in even more and more and more money to create more ads, more negative ads, et cetera, et cetera. And they'll continue to do that. And they're going to continue to do that to any of the progressives. If they try to push back against the establishment, they'll do that. They'll get someone who's establishment to primary challenge Cori Bush. They'll get someone who's establishment to primary challenge AOC. See, AOC knows this, so she knows how to play the game. She worked for a politician before. So this is a problem. This is a big part of the problem, is the money. And sometimes people tell me, like, you need to be more positive and more optimistic. And I'm like, well, no, with this strategy, until you get the money out, it's not going to work anymore. And even though we got the round of progressives that we did get in, what have they done? They haven't done anything. We had a long conversation about this Friday evening. They're not doing anything. Let's go back into the video. She's going to tell you more about the Democratic Party.
I think a larger reflection beyond my run, because we see this pattern happening all over the country where races are no longer decided at the ballot box. They're decided in boardrooms across this country. That how does that impact this still very young representative democracy? And what does that mean going forward when big money can decide who leads specific communities, knowing that they really don't care about the needs, the hopes, and the dreams, and even the fears of said communities?
So did you hear that? She just said that big money decides and leads the communities. The people aren't even leading their own communities.
Yeah, and after the race, Justice Democrats gave a rather what I thought was almost startling comment to Kale Lacey, my colleague at The Intercept, for an article she wrote on the race, where she asked, where were you? You guys backed Nina Turner last time around. Why do you get in this time? And they gave an unusually blunt and honest answer. They said there's so much dark money, so much big money being spent on against Nina Turner that we have to make decisions. If the country is a chessboard, we have to decide where we're going to move our pieces, and we can't afford to keep up with the amount of spending that is being thrown down against Nina Turner. Meanwhile,
let's talk about that for a second. Let's hear this one more time, what he just said. Listen to this.
Justice Democrats gave a rather what I thought was almost startling comment to Kale Lacey, my colleague at The Intercept, for an article she wrote on the race, where she asked, where were you? You guys backed Nina Turner last time around. Why do you get in this time? And they gave an unusually blunt and honest answer. They said there's so much dark money, so much big money being spent on against Nina Turner that we have to make decisions. If the country is a chessboard, we have to decide where we're going to move our pieces, and we can't afford to keep up with the amount of spending that is being thrown down against Nina Turner.
So Justice Democrats, long story short, decided not to move their chess piece in Nina's direction. That's really what that means. Yes, there was a lot of dark money that came in. Yes, again, we always know that that's going to be a problem. This is not new. This is always going to be a problem. But Justice Democrats just said, that's the organization, that they could not afford basically to move their chess piece in Nina's direction. They have money. They have billionaire money, which I've talked about before on this show, how they take money from George Soros and other billionaires. That's why some people left that organization, to be honest. So they have the money, but they're choosing where they want to put that money, who they want to actually invest in. And they didn't want to invest in this direction. That's really what they're saying, but they're trying to say it in a nice way. Let's go back in.
Meanwhile, the Congressional Progressive Caucus, which had backed you in the previous race, ended up endorsing Shontel Brown, who became a member of the CPC. You told Jordan Sheridan, who's done some terrific reporting on this race, Jordan Sheridan of Status Quo, independent news outlet, that some of the squad members had been kind of threatened to stay away from the race. I've done a little bit of reporting on that, and I've heard that the Congressional Black Caucus in particular was animated about this race. And so I kind of want to ask, is that what you had heard? And also, why? I'm not breaking any news to say that both you and Shontel Brown are both black. So why would the Congressional Black Caucus be so invested in one candidate over the other here?
So he's talking about two different things here. So I do want to come out and just explain this, because there's two different caucuses here that we're talking about. There is the Progressive Caucus, which were the ones that did not endorse Nina Turner, chose to endorse Shontel Brown. And the squad is a part of that, right? So is Ro Khanna, Pramila Jayapal, and a bunch of other people that really aren't progressives, but we're not going to get at all that tonight. And then there is the Congressional Black Caucus. That is congressional members that are black. I'm just saying, just basically progressive members, not progressive, congressional members that are black. That includes Jim Clyburn. So you know where we're going with that. Now, before she gives her answer, which I think is really important, I do want to explain to you that the Congressional Black Caucus, they're not always on our side. The Congressional Black Caucus actually backed and supported Joe Biden's crime bills. That tell you everything you need to know about the Congressional Black Caucus. So there's that. So let's go into this. I want you to hear what she says about why they decided not to endorse her and decided to endorse Shontel Brown. And like Ryan just said, both of them are black. So listen to this.
If that's what you had heard.
Yeah, I heard something very similar, Ryan, no doubt about it. I mean, they need to answer that question. I think that, even from the last race last year, I was told by a supporter that navigates those spaces, and is very germane to this race too. But I was told by a supporter who actually navigates the corporate Democrat spaces, and they asked these people, why do you guys come at Nina Turner so hard? She's a Democrat too. And he was told, I'm not the right kind of Democrat. So
whoop, that's the part I wanted you to hear. Let me come out. Let's hear that part again. Notice you heard Nina Turner say, they said, well, Nina Turner's a Democrat too. Listen to this. This is why I told you this party is not where it's at.
That navigates those spaces, and is very germane to this race too. But I was told by a supporter who actually navigates the corporate Democrat spaces, and they asked these people, why do you guys come at Nina Turner so hard? She's a Democrat too. And he was told, I'm not the right kind of Democrat. So
bingo. Let's talk about the right kind of Democrat. I'll break that down for you. Someone who takes corporate money. We'll leave all the other stuff out. I'm not going to get into race. I'm not going to get into gender. I'm not going to get into any of that. Not none of the identity stuff. Because like Ryan said, both Nina Turner and Shontel Brown, they're both black women. So you got to leave the eyed Paul out of this. Somebody who takes corporate money. That's what it's really about. They're not really looking for these candidates that are running these grassroots campaigns. They really don't want real progressives in. They want people like Shontel Brown, who's actually a neoliberal, but they can say that she's progressive. They don't want real progressives in. That's not the right kind of Democrat to them. Do you see how it works? That's coming from the Congressional Black Caucus. You're like, yeah, she's one of us, but she's not one of us. This is why, and I mean this with the utmost respect, why do people still want to try to go into a party like this? The party is already telling you you're not the right kind of Democrat. They don't want you there. They've already got people to not endorse you, even if they wanted to endorse you. Other progressives. I don't understand why people still want to go into this party. Like, this is the thing. What do you mean not the right kind of Democrat? And this is why I say all of the progressives in Congress should leave DC and they should start something on the outside. They have a large following. They can get millions of people in the streets. Because as long as you stay in this party, in the two-party system, you're going to have to do what the party wants you to do. And we've already seen that happen multiple times. Obviously, recently with Nina Turner's election, they wouldn't even let them endorse Nina Turner. And AOC's endorsement, in my opinion, like I said, I don't even think that counts. How do you come in the night before? The night before. But you can tweet all day, every day about supporting Jessica Cisneros. Because I'm willing to bet you that Jessica Cisneros, in reference to her campaign, she already got the approval that it was okay for her to endorse Jessica Cisneros. They were told not to endorse Nina Turner. So why do you want to go into this party? You have Cori Bush, who last I heard, talking to people who have been on the ground, Cori Bush's office, they're not allowed to talk to people. Why do you want to go into this party? Why do you want to go into a party that they only want a right kind of Democrat, the people that take corporate money, that are not going to challenge the billionaires, the millionaires? Why do you want to go into a party that doesn't want to give everybody universal health care, doesn't want to give everyone paid family leave, doesn't want to cancel student loan debt? Why do you want to go into a party that doesn't run on the same issues that you're running on? How are these things going to pass in Congress? Because I used to think that this strategy would really work, but now you think about it, now that we've seen what we've seen and I reflect back on it, how are they going to pass bills and legislation if the party doesn't even agree with the issues that they ran on? How is this going to happen? Let's go back in. She has more to say.
I think that answers the question, even in this race as well, because I'm not the right kind, and being the right kind means that I speak up and I speak out. I center the people that I'm running to serve, not corporate interests, not owner donors. And so that is a problem for certain Democrats. And we know that the corporatist powers, whether they're rocking for Republicans or rocking for Democrats, they're rocking. And we know that they control, unfortunately, they control the levers of power in this country, and something must be done about it. And I rail against that all the time. So that doesn't make me particularly the flavor for the congressional, for the Congressional Black Caucus.
And she just said the corporate money controls all of it. We're going to skip past this woman here. I don't know her name. I'm sorry. But there's something else that she says here about choosing people.
Or a falsism. There's sometimes, when you're running as a candidate and people might pull stuff from your background and manipulate it for their purposes. On this, being labeled as anti-Israel, anti-Semitic was a flat out lie. And so I had a very good team, Jewish leaders, director and coordinators on my team that, helped me to begin to have those kind of conversations, to seek first to understand and then to be understood to quote Stephen Covey. And so I approached it in that way. Like, this is a lie. There's no gray here. This is a lie used to malign my name. And I did make some inroads. I did have some Jewish leaders tell me that they know that it was a lie. Some Jewish leaders were in the rooms where things were being plotted against me, knowing that was in fact a lie. And we see groups like AIPAC and DMFI, Democratic Majority for Israel. They're doing that to several candidates. Let us not forget that in 2020, after Senator Bernie Sanders, who is Jewish, after his heart attack, DMFI put out one of the most disgusting commercials against Senator Bernard Sanders. And
I remember that too. I remember that happening. And that's why I said, I think back on it and I say again, if Bernie Sanders, I don't think he will, but if Bernie Sanders tried to run again as a Democrat, I would be like, are you serious? They don't want you there. They're doing everything that they can. Listen, if there's one group that the Republicans and the Democrats are against, it's the left. It's the progressives. Republicans don't want them there, and the establishment Democrats don't want them there. This is why I say you got to leave the two-party system. They don't want you there. They're going to do everything they can to try to stop you or prevent you from getting there.
Iowa. So Democratic Majority for Israel, what they're doing, they're fighting against people like Summer Lee, who's running, and just a whole host of candidates. And it seems that they come down particularly hard against candidates, progressive Black women. And that's a pattern that they have. And it doesn't matter that the candidates that they back from time to time on the opposite side are Black. We have to question the impact of not just outside money, but also, do people get to just totally make up stuff about you, something that inflammatory? It's very hurtful. So Emily, you're right. The large Jewish, I served this community, part of the Jewish community, when I was a state senator. So I've always had the largest portion of the Jewish community as a state senator, and the congressional district was half of my Senate district. So I'm not new to this community, but what these types of groups are able to do is terrible, and people should speak out against it a little more. I'm glad for J Street, groups, even my local. I had a lot of local leaders and just activist types actually write letters to the editor in the Cleveland Jewish News. And that was refreshing for me this time around. I didn't necessarily have that last time, but a lot of Jewish leaders actually spoke up this time, and that really made me proud.
And
someone just said something in the chat that I really do want to highlight here because I think this is important. Pookie Wood said Bernie had that chance in 2016. He should have started a third party then, or flipped or into a third party for 2020. I agree 100%. I agree. Let's scoot a little bit ahead. There was something here that she said about them choosing people. I want to make sure I highlight that point.
other things.
Oh no, just how they, slandered or went against Senator Sanders. No, it was about me being divisive. There are a lot of polling going on because I had people in my circles who live in this district. So they were getting the polls, they were tracking, trying to see what would stick to me. So they just turbo boosted the message they did against me last time. So the foundation was I'm divisive, I'm not a real Democrat, that because they know this district is solidly Democrat. Just solidly. And so they were playing on that, and they just turbo boosted. As a matter of fact, Ryan and Emily, I got a hit piece against me in my mailbox just yesterday, and I'm just shaking my head because
They're still coming.
They're still coming, right? But I have my grandson, I tell.
That's not the part I wanted. There's a part
and
here.
I'm thinking, I had one of my dear friends say to me, well, Nina, they must. And that is why I say that if these groups had not jumped in, if these people had not jumped into this race and it was just a head-to-head, I would have won this race both times.
And on that point, I think this is... Oh, go ahead, Ryan. Did you have a question?
Oh, no. I mean, I was just going to ask what's next for you, but
yeah.
No, let me see if this is the part. Give me just a second.
Ukraine going on. You got inflation, trying to figure out all kinds of things that are going wrong, both internationally and domestically. And the president jumped into this race. So that tells you the level of pressure that my team and I were under, especially the last 2 weeks of this race. And that is why I say that if these groups had not jumped in, if these people had not.
Okay, I think I may have played it already, but there was one part here where she said they can pick who they want. And I think it was the part going back to the Congressional Black Caucus. And yes, it was that part. Give me just a second.
Why would the Congressional Black Caucus be so invested in one candidate over the other here, if that's what you had heard?
Yeah, I heard something very similar, Ryan, no doubt about it. I mean, they need to answer that question. I think that, even from the last race last year, I was told by a supporter that navigates those spaces, and this is very germane to this race too, but I was told by a supporter who actually navigates the corporate Democrat spaces, and they asked these people, why do you guys come at Nina Turner so hard? She's a Democrat too. And he was told, I'm not the right kind of Democrat. So I think that answers the question, even in this race as well, because I'm not the right kind, and being the right kind means that I speak up and I speak out. I center the people that I'm running to serve, not corporate interests, not owner donors. And so that is a problem for certain Democrats. And we know that the corporatist powers, whether they're rocking for Republicans or rocking for Democrats, they're rocking. And we know that unfortunately, they control the levers of power in this country, and something must be done about it. And I rail against that all the time. So that doesn't make me particularly the flavor for the congressional, for the Congressional Black Caucus.
Yeah, and folks on a national level might not realize there's a pretty significant Jewish community in this district, and Nina, that people.
I really don't know who this person is.
There's sometimes, when you're running as a candidate and people might pull stuff from your background and manipulate.
Okay, so there was another part, and I'll have to find it later because I do need to move into the next clip. But they can pick who they want. They pick who they want. The Democratic Party said they can do that. So this is something I think people really need to understand. If they decide you're not the person that they want, they'll do everything they can to make sure that you don't win. And like I said before, the squad got in, but again, they weren't expecting those people to win. They weren't expecting them to beat those establishment Democrats. They've adjusted. DG Daniel said it was sad to watch Nina grovel for this seat. She should be outside kicking their ass. I hear you. Bad cookies. Nina will secretly take corporate money like AOC does. Oh boy. Gamer says Dem Party is the graveyard part of Shama's quote. Thank you for the super chat. Aparturum. Nina sitting there acting like she doesn't know that she was abandoned even by the fake progressive squad. Yeah, I couldn't do it. Like if they did that to me, I couldn't do it. Bill said Nina is a very effective sheepdog for the DNC. She is the one that is pulling the people AOC used to pull before she so obviously sold out. Wow, Bill. Wow. I told you earlier on that more information has come out about those threats that were made to the squad. So I do want to share that information because Jordan has come out. He made a video about that while he's driving, talking about what the threats were. I want you to hear what those threats are, and then I want to hear your opinion. Because after I heard what the threats were, I was, again, even more disappointed and upset with the squad. Because I feel like, let me play the video. Here we go.
But when you look at when Justice Democrats and all these groups and the squad look at it, she didn't lose by that much in August. And your strategy or your conclusion is, we're going to sit this one out. It's honestly, I'm a journalist, so I've never latched on to fraud squad and all this. I know people want me to, but I'm a journalist. I'm not an activist. Sure, I give my opinion, but it has nothing to do with access. It's not my role to tell you to Dem enter or Dem.
Hit that like button, guys. Sometimes I forget to tell people. Go ahead and give that a big old thumbs up.
Exit or to cancel the squad or whatever like that. But I will just factually tell you, this is not what people elected the squad to do. This is not what people who can't afford to donated to or volunteered for. And as Nina Turner said last night, they were threatened. The squad was threatened not to support her.
Here we go.
Well, I can tell you, based on a few conversations I've had, and not directly with Nina, Cori Bush and some others were threatened, not physically, but threats. If you support Nina Turner, the Democratic establishment, we're going to be sending out the bat signals to super PACs to go against you in your re-elections. Cori Bush is up for re-election in a tough primary in St. Louis. That if you support Nina Turner, we are going to make sure that big money is against you. You will not have the Congressional Black Caucus endorsement, and we will be coming hard for you. That I know for sure.
Hold up. Let's listen to this again. Here were the threats, ladies and gentlemen. Here are the threats.
Is up for re-election in a tough primary in St. Louis. Democratic establishment, we're going to be sending out the bat signals to super PACs to go against you in your re-elections. Cori Bush is up for re-election in a tough primary in St. Louis. That if you support Nina Turner, we are going to make sure that big money is against you. You will not have the Congressional Black Caucus endorsement, and we will be coming hard for you. That I know for sure happened. And you want to know something? It's still no excuse not to support Nina Turner.
So, from what we've heard, the threats had to do with their career in politics. We're going to send out super PACs against you. You're not going to get the CBC endorsement. We're going to do all this kind of stuff to make sure that you don't win next time. Those were the threats. What happened to, I know at least AOC said this, I can't speak for the others. What happens to, I don't care if I'm a one-term congressperson? What happened to that? If you didn't care if you were going to be a one-term congressperson, then those threats that they made, we're going to send super PACs out against you. We're going to send in more money. You're not going to get the CBC endorsement. That wouldn't have mattered. So this just basically confirmed some of the suspicions that I've had, which I've mentioned on the show, that they're looking out for their career. That's what it's about. They would do much better. They could do more good if they were not in DC. Cori Bush was doing really well. I'm not speaking financially here, but as an activist, she was doing really well during the Ferguson protests out there with the people in the community. Those were the threats, ladies and gentlemen. Those were the threats. I'm going to send out super PACs. Make sure you don't win next time. That's when you come in and you say, again, you were supposed to be coming in hostile as a Justice Democrat. That's when you push back and you say, well, then you do what you got to do. The fact that we just heard that, what does that tell you? What does that tell you about this strategy? What does that tell you about the squad? This is done. They're definitely not going to do anything. They're not going to fight for you. They're not going to fight for the people. That's all they have to do is threaten to send super PACs out against them, to threaten their career, to threaten endorsements. That's all they got to do. So then what's the point? This goes back to something I said when I was on Jimmy Dore's show. The real fighters that were in DC that fought back against war, imperialism, fought back for the people, the Democratic establishment pushed them out. That's why you don't see them there anymore. One of them has been on the show, Cynthia McKinney. She said so herself. I'll see if I can find that clip. She said so herself. They're not going to keep you there if you're actually going to fight and push. Now, this is where some people will come in and say, well, that's why we need more progressives in the House. Bruh, you don't think the establishment has already figured this game out by now? You think they're going to let us get more progressives in there? They're not. Might get lucky, get like one or two here and there. But they're not going to let the progressives become the establishment in the House through the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. In fact, the establishment Democrats and the GOP would actually do bipartisanship to prevent them from coming in. The GOP and the Democratic establishments would actually join together in a bipartisan way to prevent the rest of those progressives from getting in. Like I said, at the end of the day, Democrat or Republican, they're in DC, they can all go to the same country club, whether they agree on social issues or not. This is a wake-up call if you have not been woken up or you're kind of on the fence and you're trying to do this kind of thing, because what does this tell you?
What you do when you're being threatened by corporate villain bullies is you punch back. What any of these squad members should be doing if they're being threatened, that we're going to come after you in this election if you support Nina Turner, blah, 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 is you have your press people contact CNN, MSNBC, hell, Fox News, whatever it is, because they cannot resist. They cannot resist Dem party fighting.
That's true.
They love that story. Democrat Party disarray. And you say Congresswoman Bush would like to come on to reveal threats she's getting for the Democratic Party, not to support Nina Turner. You would be called back in 5 minutes. You want to know how I know? Because I worked for these corporate outlets. They favor conflict and fighting way more than anything else because it's good for ratings. You put them on blast publicly. You put them on blast publicly. That
I don't agree with Jordan on everything, but he's right about that. That's what you do. You go to the media. They're always around in DC anyway. They're usually trying to get into your face to get you to talk. You go to the media. Why? They couldn't do that. They won't do that. I'm still wondering, where's this hostile takeover? Where's the hostility supposed to be coming in? This just proves my point. This is what I've been saying.
whomever is threatening you, they're threatening to come after you if you support Nina Turner. And you know what that does? Number one, it actually helps you in your election if you're truly worried about your election, because it rallies your base of supporters and activists to stick with you because you stuck with Nina. It gets media attention. It puts whomever, whether it's the Congressional Black Caucus, Nancy Pelosi, whatever, it puts pressure on them. It puts them on blast. It rallies your troops in St. Louis, or if you're Rashida Tlaib in Detroit, or if you're Ilhan Omar in Minnesota.
Do you know how much attention that would have received by the American people if they did that? If they went to the press and told them that they were being threatened and the threats that were made because they wanted to endorse Nina Turner, do you know how big that story would have been? That would have exposed a lot of corruption in DC that, again, like I told you guys, most people are not aware of this. Most of the things that I talk about on this show, that we talk about in independent media, most Americans are not aware that these things are going on. But they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't do it. Now you know what the threats were, ladies and gentlemen. People kept asking me that, and I was like, I don't know yet, but now you know. Now I want to give a shout out to someone. Thank you so much for sharing this with me. This is something you guys got to see. I'm not going to read the whole article. I'm just going to read one paragraph. Now, this is by Lauren Elizabeth. She wrote an article that says, please stop donating to the Democratic Party. I beg you, and here's why. And the paragraph I want to highlight is actually towards the bottom. Doobie doobie doo. Aha, here we go. Listen to what Lauren Elizabeth said. They won't even end the filibuster for this issue alone because they know it opens the door for other legislation, and then they're out of excuses not to do the bidding of their corporate donors. Why send money to them when there are so many better ways it can be spent? There are online resources pointing to organizations and networks that help people get access to abortions. Why not donate to them instead? Why not send money to strike funds for workers organizing their workplaces? The list of better, more productive alternatives is endless. And then she ends with this. I know there are loyal Democratic voters who are as frustrated by these circumstances as I am. No matter how much I might vehemently disagree with you on a wide variety of issues, my problem is not with you. This needs to be a moment when we set differences aside, sit down, and have a dialogue with each other. Nothing will improve until we do. And of course, if someone finds a specific candidate that they want to support, then do so. but keep that money away from the DCCC. Congress alone will not save us. And this is the point I want to drive home. All we have are our communities and each other. Organize and fight back. That article is by Lauren Elizabeth. I highly recommend you read it. She went off. She went off. She went off. And she was right when she says, she points out all these different things that the Democrats can do that they're not doing. Blue Moon Red Wine said that's the threat. I thought it would be a death threat. What spineless shit is this? Hi, Lucci. Delthea, who's a Sabby member, says to get your pension as a congressional representative, you need 3 terms. Unless you are independently wealthy, getting reelected always matters. You guys hear this? Thank you for the super chat, Salty Granny. Thank you very much for the explanation. I'm so glad I found your channel. Thank you so much and welcome. I like that name, Salty Granny. Shout out to Felicia Goodbay for becoming a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. Welcome. And thank you for this as well. Felicia said, love your show, Sabby. Thank you so much. I hope everyone can learn something from that segment because this is not, nah. So much for I don't care if I'm a one-term congressperson, right? People say a lot of things when they're running. Austin Knitter, kind of questioning my third vote for Rashida with the pension bit in mind in light of bailing on Nina this cycle. Are there any independent or third-party candidates running in your district, Austinator? Couch said Biden's going to be a one-term president, calling it now. Cryptician says, stop donating money to the Democratic Party. I'm begging you. Man, all of you guys are saying, a lot of you are saying the same thing in the chat. You guys see? Cat's out the bag. I mean, I've been saying this for months, but now you see, even other people are saying the same thing now. Other people see this as well now. So that goes to show you they care more about their career. And that's that.